Earlier this year, we embarked upon a 32-night cruise in an inside cabin all the way from Sydney, Australia to Vancouver in Canada.
And why did we do this? Well, given that we travel the world full time, we thought this would be a great occasion where we could let the long haul flights have a bit of a back step while we used a cruise ship to take the strain. And was it plain sailing? Ah, see what I did there?
No.
You don't see what I did there?
Well, yeah, I saw what you did there, but no, it wasn't plain sailing.
Oh, you mean the fire in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the middle of the night?
Yeah, something like that.
If you've followed any of our most recent videos, you'll know that we've recently bought a motorhome, but today you find us in sunny Spain. We've flown down here with a plan of making some videos exploding the myths of what it's like to travel and visit Spain.
And as for the motorhome, we will be back in that in February and taking on the biggest challenge we've actually set ourselves.
Yeah, and it's something we're excited about and nervous about, and that's because it's a bit of a gamble. Before we get to our Spanish videos though, many of you wanted to know more about our Trans-Pacific cruise and whether there was a potential that you could use it yourself as a form of geo-arbitrage, you know, a cheaper way of traveling the world. And today we're going to share with you the things that we loved about this cruise and the things that we didn't love so much, and also why many of the people on this ship thought we were going to get airlifted to safety.
And if you're not already subscribed, be sure to do so. In the next video, we're going to share the costs of this cruise and compare it to the cost of a long-haul flight from Sydney to Vancouver.
And where we are today is Guadamar Beach. We've been reliably informed that there's this oasis right next to the beach. We opened it down there and we're taking the walk along this boardwalk here into what almost looks like a bit of a jungle over the top of some dunes. Looks pretty impressive.
It's amazing. But first, some background. This was a Princess cruise ship, and one of the first concerns we actually had was that it was the oldest cruise ship in their fleet.
So the worry is it going to be a bit tired or falling apart? And some of the reviews we'd seen online weren't exactly filling us with confidence. But the itinerary itself was fantastic. We since found, once we got on the cruise, that it was two cruises, two itineraries put together. The first cruise was much better than the second, and the reason for that we'll come on to later on in this video. And so to that itinerary, where did we go for 32 nights? Well, we started off, as Sarah said, leaving Sydney and heading down to New Zealand. And in New Zealand, we went to Picton, Wellington, Napier. We were due to stop in Tauranga, but unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond the ship's control, we couldn't do that. Then on to Auckland. We were going to stop at the Bay of Islands, and again there were issues which meant we couldn't stop there. Then there was American Samoa, Pago Pago, French Polynesia, that was Papeete and Tahiti, Hawaii, stopping at Honolulu and Maui, and then on to San Francisco. From San Francisco up the west coast to Victoria, Canada, finally finishing in Vancouver. So what an itinerary. But you know, the next concern Sarah had was having that inside cabin. We're going to talk about that later, but it's going to be on my love list. That's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? Right, we've kind of given up on hiking through this forest because this is wild.
It is.
There was very few occasions where I could actually have Sarah stood or walked next to me through this. We thought we'll set down the tripod, set down the camera and take the time to really tell you what you need to know about this Trans-Pacific cruise. So what was included?
Well, all non-speciality dining, which was basically the main dining room, buffet, pizza restaurant, 24-hour cafe, and then on deck was a pizza bar, hot dog and burger stand and a coffee shop. We chose a package deal that included all of our gratuities, internet access for both of us and alcoholic drinks.
And just a quick word on that internet access. It was so good, it wasn't fast, but it was so good that we were able to upload videos and every day Sarah was on the phone to her mum for an hour. So it was more than adequate. Gave me a bit of a bit of a breather too. And as Sarah said a few moments ago, check back next week. We'll be doing the whole cost breakdown and comparing it to other forms of transport.
Okay, Neil, let's start with all the things that we loved, and then we can talk about all the chaos on board, along with some of the things we weren't a fan of.
Okay, good idea. First thing we loved was the crew. Such a genuine bunch of people. It felt like any interaction we had with them was a positive interaction. There wasn't anyone who was a little bit surly. And it felt to us, over the amount of time we were on the ship, we made some genuine friendships with the crew, which was a lovely outcome we didn't expect.
Next, the variety of ports. There were places that we would never have got to unless we were on a cruise ship, such as Tahiti and American Samoa.
And then there were all those ports I listed in New Zealand. And it was great. We got to meet a couple of our Patreons who fast became friends, and they took us hiking in the hills around Picton, and we had some lovely sights up there. Really had to pinch ourselves. It felt like we were in a fantasy world, everything you see in A Lord of the Rings and more. We met some old friends while we were in Wellington, people we haven't seen in almost 10 years, and we had a good few beers with them. We visited Maui and Honolulu in Hawaii, and we have to say we feel desperately sorry for the people of Maui, who a short time after our visit found their homes devastated and tens of lives lost in the horrific wildfires. And we also had a day in Victoria, Canada as our last stop before we got ourselves to Vancouver. What, you know, you just can't beat that as an itinerary, can you?
And one intangible thing was that we were forced to slow down.
Yeah.
Being on a cruise ship for a month really did make us relax.
Right, and I said one of the things I loved was the room, our cabin on board. So tell me, what didn't you like about that cabin, Sarah?
I didn't like the fact it didn't have a window or a balcony.
Yep.
And it was dark, which was okay during the night, but when you wake up in the morning, it was just dark.
Welcome to our home. This is our home at sea.
Well, we haven't even
It's
made
a
the
mess.
bed. And when you're in there, all you can feel is it rolling around on the ocean.
And I said this is one of the things I loved. Literally everything Sarah said that she didn't love is what I loved. When you went in there, it was pitch black. It was like our own little cave. It was cosy. It was wonderful. And the rolling around, it felt like you're in one of these, you know, these flotation tanks people go to. They pay thousands for that, Sarah. I honestly loved it. I was nervous, believe me. I was nervous about being in the inside cabin. And if you want to see the sea, all you have to do, leave our cabin, go up one set of stairs, and you can see it all around you. And I think when you're in the middle of an ocean, not much to see, to be honest. It's just blue. Every day you wake up, you go, oh, blue sea again. Oh, blue sky. Oh, there's the sun. So for me, I thought that was a really cool experience.
Not the natural daylight.
That's what I thought was a really cool experience for 1 month. So, Sarah, what didn't we love?
We didn't love the changeover when we got to San Francisco. Basically, before that, it was quite a well-mannered, quiet, peaceful,
Yeah, relaxed.
relaxed cruise. And then as soon as we got to San Francisco, it became a party ship.
The good thing for us, though, is we'd already made great relationships with all of the staff on board. So you walk into a bar and they're absolutely packed and people shouting and screaming, but we only had to go like that. They'd see us all right and we got our drinks in front of us. Another thing that we didn't love was norovirus. I'm probably going to go on a bit of a rant here, to be honest. We've all just come through the hell that was COVID, and I hoped in vain that that would mean that people would just be taking their own personal hygiene a little bit more carefully. That wasn't the case, and only a few days into the cruise, the captain made it quite clear norovirus was rife around the ship. And in fact, more than 1 in 20 people on that cruise came down with norovirus. I was one of them. It wasn't fantastic. It was probably the most violently ill I've been in my life.
So sick.
It wasn't wonderful. So, you know, I'm sure people are going to say to me in the comments, well, you can't tell other people what to do. No, but when something like this is absolutely known across the ship and people just aren't washing their hands, men, I can't speak for the women, but going to the toilet, not washing their hands, walking straight back out into the ship, and then going into the buffet, not washing their hands, just strolling past it. Stations are there, not using
Even though
it.
there was actually crew members telling people to wash their hands,
people
we
just
still
walked
saw
straight
people
past.
walk through.
And what about this? How do you feel about this? When you get to the buffet, there was a place where there was like 6 stacks of plates, warm plates. A guy in front of me went up to the plates and put his flat hand on all of the top 6 plates so he could decide which one he preferred. He took that and off he went. That's the kind of stuff that was happening, and I just think unacceptable. And one of the reasons why I'm a lot more circumspect about taking cruises in future. I'd be all for the cruises enforcing this stuff. I know they can't because they don't want to put people off going on their cruises, but it's putting me off going on their cruises by them not doing that.
And as we're talking about food there, for a 32-night cruise, the food did get a little bit samey.
Yeah, how many portions of French onion soup can one man eat?
Quite a lot.
Quite a lot. I think I had that just about every day. They do a fantastic French onion soup. If you're wondering, should you do a Princess Cruise, do it just for the French onion soup.
Oh, and they also put on a Sunday British pub lunch, which was also really well liked.
Yeah, it was. Now, don't get me wrong, the food on board was from good to excellent. And from my perspective, how they managed to come up with the variety they did come up with in 32 nights.
And also the space between ports sometimes, how they actually use the food and keep it fresh.
Yeah.
It's incredible how they do that.
So I can't blame the cruise line for this. This is simply a case of if you're going to do a 32-night cruise, surely things are going to get a little bit samey as you go along. And for me, I'd have also liked to have seen more venues, bars and restaurants.
Yeah, definitely. And the bars have the same sort of bingo and quizzes, and to be honest, that isn't really our thing, is it?
Yeah, if you want to go and sit in a bar, in a different bar to when you normally sit in, you're kind of having to sit there and you can't help but say, Elvis. The answer was Elvis. Oh, I'm not getting involved. Paris. You know what I mean? It's just not conducive to having a good conversation, I found.
All right then, Neil, tell everyone about the fire and all of the scaremongering that went on.
Oh yeah, this is a funny story with a real positive ending. So set the scene. All of the cabins on board have got a speaker in the room in case the bridge needs to contact the passengers directly. One night we went to bed in the pitch black, which Sarah didn't like. We were right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and then in the middle of the night something came out of that speaker, and it was somebody saying, would the first responders urgently attend deck 4, zone 7 for the electrical substation?
It was like first stage response.
Yeah.
That's quite terrifying.
A little bit scary in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, going, oh, what's that all about? So Sarah at this point, she's going, what does that mean? What does that mean? Me, I'm not a great one for knowing about ships, so all my job was at that point was just to calm her down. Go back to sleep. If you hear all those beeps they tell you to listen out for, that's when you need to head for the boats, but don't worry about it. We went back to sleep, and then a little while later, and it was just a bit eerie, we heard another message. This is like, I don't know what it was, 3, 4 in the morning, another message asking for further assistance down there. It really was a bit...
probably only 20 minutes, but I think we just dropped off again, so it felt like...
It was just a bit eerie. How did you feel at that point?
I was terrified.
Yeah, she was a little bit. And
I
then...
was going into panic mode.
I know, but then about an hour later, the captain came on. Still, middle of the night. He came on and he accidentally said, thank you for your excellent work putting out the fire. Now, that was a mistake because there was a commotion behind him and we heard people correcting him, and he said, there was no fire, there was no fire, there was just smoke. There's the same where I come from, no smoke without fire. But let's not go there. He seemed like a lovely guy and I'm sure he was right. So the impact of this is people that were staying in that portion of the ship, so section 7, in cabins there, they needed to get moved elsewhere on the ship, so they were probably fairly well impacted. For us, there were a couple of venues closed, a bar and a kind of nightclubby area was closed.
I think it was knocked out all of the aircon.
Yeah,
in those
aircon
areas, so.
and electricity all gone, and actually part of the buffet had no air conditioning either. But I'll be honest, for Sarah and I, impact 0. We were happily enjoying our time on this ship, weren't we? But then Sarah mentioned about the scaremongery. All the rumours started to...
You could just see them all.
Yeah.
Rumours.
And one of the things was, I got a cruise map app on my phone, and if you looked at the cruise map, you could see probably about 100 miles behind us was another ship. So the rumour there was that's there because they're going to be coming alongside and we need to abandon ship and go onto that ship. And everyone's
that would happen.
starting to make plans for what they're going to do. Another big one that was doing the rounds, I don't know if you remember, Sarah, was that when we pull into Tahiti, we're going to be told as we hit land that actually that's the end of the cruise. And there will be humanitarian flights landing in Tahiti, taking us to safety. Sarah and I, what we did was we put it all in the hands of the crew. The captain and crew clearly knew what they were doing, but at this point they were dealing with a bit of a PR issue.
Yeah.
So what happened was, actually, the problem was resolved when we made it all the way to Honolulu.
Yeah.
So
Which
we
was
did.
a good couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was more than half the cruise we had this issue with the ship, but for us, no big deal. But while we were still going across the Pacific, the captain came over the tannoy and said, there will be a gesture of goodwill from Princess Cruises and you'll see a letter in your cabin this evening. Now, Sarah and I were thinking, might be 100 quid, $100, who knows, that'd be nice. We got to our room, the gesture was, he'd given us 50% of the value of our cruise towards a future cruise. Now, just remember, this was 32 nights. This was expensive, as you'll find out in the next video. This was expensive. So, it also included like all the taxes and the gratuities. They gave us half of everything, which I thought was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, because the actual cruise cost without all the extra packages
it wasn't so
would have still
high.
been extremely generous for the impact it had on us.
Well, the impact it had on us was we went straight online and booked the Princess Cruise, which was 14 nights. So we moved from their oldest ship to a few months later getting on their newest ship. And we took that cruise up to the Norwegian fields in an outside balcony. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So if you ever want a balcony on a cruise, Norwegian fields is the place to do it. Not across Pacific, it's just blue there. Up there, you've got so much to see.
100%.
That was incredible. And from that point on, I've become a huge fan of Princess as an operation. So what do you think, Sarah? Would you do this kind of cruise again?
I think a 32-night cruise is a bit too long stretch for us on a cruise ship.
It is, and I think that for me, I'd like to do a transatlantic cruise,
Definitely.
maybe from Europe to the US or vice versa,
That's about
or even
14
from
nights.
or Europe down to South
Yeah.
America. I know there's cruises that go down to Rio and to Buenos Aires. So that would be interesting, but yeah, 32 nights on one ship is a bit of a stretch. And I think there may be a chance we'll be doing a Geo-arbitrage repositioning cruise next year to get over to the US for a party for a friend of ours. So that may well work. And you know, you're comparing this against a flight where you're crammed in with everybody else and they throw your fodder down in front of you. This is, you know, we were getting white tablecloths and all that kind of stuff.
Very
So
posh.
yeah, we're going to probably do it again, but 32 nights, a little bit too long.
A bit too long. So are you saying in the next video you're going to compare the flights to the cruise, the inside cabin, outside cabin?
Yeah, exactly that. And actually, we've made a couple of videos on Geo-arbitrage before, so we're going to put one on screen now in lieu of that video coming out next week. But be sure to check back for that. You've been watching To Go Rome. We hope you found this fun and interesting. Somewhere deep in a forest in the middle of Spain. No one else has walked past since we've been here. We'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.